What is up everyone, Movie I'm back again. Another video, and today is going to be my top 10 horror movies of all time.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Now, horror is my favourite genre and probably always will be, and I've wanted to get this list out there on the channel for quite a while now. I first watched horror movies when I was about 9 years old, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and I just haven't looked back since. I fell in love with it, and every time a new horror movie comes along, I get really excited to watch it. I always embrace subgenres like found footage, slasher, paranormal. It just all interests me. So this is going to be a list compiled of my favourite horror films and the overall best ones I've seen. And I've sort of compressed them together to give off my ultimate top 10 there. So leave your top 10s down below. I know all our lists are going to be different. There is no right or wrong list. We're all different. And I'll be very doubtful if there's someone out there who has the exact same list as me in the same order and everything. That is virtually impossible, isn't it? So leave them down below and I'll try and get back to you all. And maybe there'll be some recommendations from you lot that I can check out if I haven't seen any yet. Now, I've got a couple of honourable mentions here. I won't spend too long on them, but let's just get into them because I feel like I have to mention them. First off, we have William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist, which is an absolutely incredible piece of horror cinema. I can understand why heads were falling off back in the day over this film and why everyone was terrified. We also have Frailty, a very underrated horror that everyone needs to check out, directed by Bill Paxton and starring him. We also have Jaws. People may not call that a horror, but it definitely is to me. Made me not want to go in and see for years. Train to Busan, which is one I just checked out a couple of years ago, and I couldn't believe how good it was. Definitely one of the best zombie movies of all time. Midsummer, which I know not everyone appreciates. It's a very Marmite film, but I am definitely in the love camp with that. We also got Hereditary by Ari Aster as well. Two of his movies back to back there. I can never decide which one I think is the best. They are both brilliant in my opinion. The Silence of the Lambs, which is a glorified thriller for some, but there's people's faces being bitten off and women's skin. So for me, that is a horror movie. And lastly, we have The Lost Boys, which just didn't quite make this list, but one of the films in the horror genre that I probably watch more than any. So that is very unlucky not to make it, and on another day it might have been in there. So let's just get into it now with number 10. Number 10 is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. This is one of the very first horror films I ever seen. I remember my dad come back from a car boot sale once and said, "Here you go, son, I finally got you," after begging my parents for years to let me watch a Freddy Krueger movie. So I did start with this one instead of the first, and I know a lot of people would put the first one above Part 3, but there's also a ton of people who think Part 3 is the best, and I am one of them people. I just think that this sequel has everything in it. I love Freddy Krueger himself in this because he's got a very dark comedic tone going here where he tells jokes, but they're really in a twisted style and a depraved manner, really. They're not full comedy like Freddy's Dead or something like that.
Let's get high.
But he's also a very creepy character in this as well, and they've got a fine balance there. And also the characters in this movie, I mean, slasher films aren't something you relate with great characters to, but you really do care about these kids who have been put in a mental asylum here because they are all having the same dream about this guy, and people just think, you know, that must be an answer to it. But it really is Freddy invading their dreams, and they're all got a unique personality. But what I really like as well, when they go into the dream world, they have these own powers that they make up, and that just really adds to the characters as well when they're in the dream world and just makes the movie very exciting. It's got some great death scenes in here as well where the puppet, you know, the guy who's, I think his name's Joey, he just loves puppets, and Freddy's got his veins pulling out of his arms there and using them as a puppet and stuff. We've got the girl, Jenny, who gets thrown through the telly because she's just dreaming of being this TV star. So Freddy shoves it through the through the TV and says, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." They're the type of jokes he's telling in this film. But I just love the whole setting and stuff. Hospitals are always creepy. But when these characters all come together and share their differences and, have the one thing in common with Freddy, just making their lives hell, it's just a very good dynamic to have. And bringing Heather Langenkamp back as Nancy to come and help all these kids was just the added sprinkle there. I always have a fun time with A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and it is one of the best horror sequels ever made, in my opinion. I also have a ton of nostalgia for this film because, like I said, my dad brought it home from that car boot sale and I wore that VHS out, man. So, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors is number 10. Number 9 is going to be Ridley Scott's Alien. Now, this is the perfect example of how to build tension in your horror films. You're waiting around for quite a while there, but you always know something is coming, and man, when it does it pack a punch? This is basically about a crew who are going to check out this distress signal, and when they're on this planet, an alien life form gets on board and starts to pick the characters off one by one. But we can't go without mentioning the infamous chest burst scene here when we first see this alien sort of come to life, basically. And I imagine watching that scene in the 1970s, and people were just horrified at the cinema because I don't think you see things like that too often back then. And if I could go back in time and watch one movie on the big screen, it would probably be Alien, to be honest. But this film has got full of great characters as well. We've got one of the greatest heroines in movie history in Ripley there, who it doesn't quite focus on until the last final act of the film there. You don't quite know who the movie's meant to be following, which is a positive for me. And the Xenomorph is just one of the best monster creatures ever designed, isn't it? When this thing absolutely blows up into this big life form, it's something to behold, put it that way. But just an absolutely brilliant horror movie from Ridley Scott. People may argue that Aliens is better, and I probably would agree with that, to be honest, because Aliens is in my top 5 films ever. But that is more of an action orientated horror film. I don't think it's pure horror, but Alien is nothing to be sniffed at, and it just had to be in there because it's a damn near masterpiece for me. So number 9 is Alien. Number 8 is going to be The Blair Witch Project. No film has terrified me to this day more than this film. I remember asking my mum and dad to rent this VHS from the video shop after me hearing a little bit of talk amongst my friends that this was the next big horror film. And I remember that night I could not sleep. I was drenched in sweat and I kept seeing the Blair Witch little twigs that were made on the trees, shadows of it in my room there. Now I know they weren't there, but in my mind, they were, and I just could not sleep all night.
I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them.
Now, this is basically about a group of documentary makers, really, who go into the woods to try and find this urban legend of a witch, and they get lost, basically. But there's something there in the woods with them. Like, they will wake up from the tent and there'll be a pile of rocks put there, or like I said, them little Blair Witch icons around the tent and stuff like that. And that just creeped me the hell out. And what they done with the budget here, with the minimal cost of making this terrifying found footage film, was nothing short of phenomenal. It is a great achievement in horror history, and I had to put it in the top 10. So number 8 is The Blair Witch Project. Number 7 is going to be Saw. Now, this is a very simple concept about 2 guys who wake up in a bathroom chained by their ankles there, and they have to figure out why they're there with the clues in the room. I loved watching this story unravel. I really did. Hearing about the other 2 characters' lives, the deadly traps that this Jigsaw serial killer was going around setting, and then they find out it was Jigsaw who put them there. And I just think it was a very, very clever, and at the time, a very original horror movie. And another horror icon was born here in Jigsaw, wasn't he? But as the story unfolds, you kind of guess what's going on, who is lying to who. is more of the reasons they've been put in this bathroom and stuff like that. But the ending for me is what impacts me more than anything. This to me is probably the best ending I've seen in any horror film. I never seen it coming, and I don't think anyone else did, to be honest. I mean, you're led to believe one thing and then something else just happened right at the end there, and I was like, oh my god, I could not believe it. The music that kicks in and everything just makes the whole film come together. And it was just Lee Wanell and James Wan, these students, a film school, who came up with the idea, and one said, I'll act, you direct. There we go. And it is the perfect combo. I absolutely love Saw. I think it's the best out of the 10 movies we've had here or whatever it is. It's just such a clever film, and one that I can watch over and over again. So number 7 is Saw. Number 6 is going to be 1992's Candyman.
Be my victim.
Now, this is what you call a pure horror movie. This is about an urban myth of Candyman. If you say his name in the mirror 5 times, he will come and basically destroy you. And I remember this being the talk of the school. I think a lot of kids in my school were talking about this at the time, pretending it was real and stuff like that. But I know a lot of people who've also said the same. I don't know why, but I think it just must have been the discussion amongst kids at the time. But this follows Helen, played by Virginia Madsen, brilliantly in this movie, by the way, and her friend who try and uncover the myth of Candyman. And her life starts to take a very downward spiral into an abyss, and there is no empathy shown or anything like that. It is just pure destruction of her life and everyone around her. And I just absolutely love this movie. I remember when I first watched it, I was only a kid, and my dad rented it from the VHS shop, or the video shop, should I say. And that young boy, when he gets his penis chopped off in that cubicle, that disgusting looking cubicle, I ran down the stairs and went, Dad, what the hell have you got me here? It is quite a creepy and scary film, but such a good one, such a clever film, and I absolutely love it. So number 6 is Candyman. Number 5 is going to be John Carpenter's Halloween. Now, I have reviewed all these movies on the channel, the entire franchise. If you want to check them out, they will be down below. This is the ultimate simple but effective film, isn't it? It's basically just about this kid who's born evil, kills his sister on Halloween night, and comes back 15 years later to kill a bunch of babysitters. That's it. But John Carpenter makes everything work along the way. Some may say this is the one that kicked off the big slasher craze. Now, I know Black Christmas and stuff were there first, but it seemed that everything came after Halloween, really. And Michael Myers is just a horror icon, you know, just this, again, simple but effective looking killer in a boiler suit and a white white mask, basically. But it all just works. The musical score that John Carpenter throws in there, that he composed himself, is played at all the right moments. It makes 70% of the movie kind of like Jaws, where without that music, it probably wouldn't work as well. But here, it just, you know, sends bone-chilling vibes down your spine. You've got the characters of Laurie Strode and her friends, and some people would say Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, is the ultimate final girl. And you got this character, Dr. Loomis, played by Donald Pleasance, who's drip-feeding the viewer info about Michael Myers himself, who he knows more better than anyone, and just telling us that he's just basically born plain evil, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
So, yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I can watch it any time, really, but the perfect time to watch this is Halloween night. It's the ultimate film to watch on Halloween, isn't it? And I absolutely adore it. It's a film that gets better every single time I watch it. So, yeah, Halloween. I mean, how can you not have this in a top 10? So number 5 is Halloween. Number 4 is going to be the greatest zombie movie of all time, in my opinion, and that is Dawn of the Dead from George A. Romero. Now, he's done a great job with Night of the Living Dead, and some people may think Day of the Dead is better, but it's this middle piece for me that really does, you know, defy the zombie genre, if you like. It's got that classic retro zombie vibe, really, of taking the whole zombie theme and just having a ton of fun with it. Taking place in this shopping mall is a great location, one of my favorite movie locations, I think, because the possibilities to the characters in this zombie apocalypse are endless. They've got this whole mall to themselves, so they've got so much supplies. They're just running around and having fun by taking the zombies out and stuff and taking everything they want. And they get a bunch of more problems later on when the biker gang invade it, so they can't get too comfy, stuff like that. But it's just a really great film. The 4 characters we follow here are great. You got Flyboy and stuff. We got Keenan Rockmore's dad going around with a fucking sniper rifle blowing zombies' heads off. I mean, what more do you want, man? I absolutely love this film. It's just such a fun time. And it absolutely flies by because you're just having so much fun with it that the 2 hours just, they just pass there. But Dawn of the Dead has inspired a lot of things. And, they got the Dead Rising game. It even had a remake. But this is the ultimate way to go if you want to watch a zombie film that takes place in a shopping mall. And the only problem I have is the look of the zombies sometimes. They look really, really blue and stuff, but there is some great gore effects in there as well that more than make up for it. So number 4 is Dawn of the Dead. Number 3 is going to be The Shannon. Yeah, we're going to get a Stephen King film in there, haven't we? And this is, to me, the ultimate atmospheric movie about this family who moved to this hotel for 5 months because they're going to look after it. And Jack Nicholson's character is going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by working on his writing and, looking after the hotel and getting paid handsomely there. But there is something about this hotel that will drive you insane, as Jack Nicholson's character soon finds out. Now, I remember watching this movie as a very young kid and I couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks, but it still chills me to the core now, even when I watch it. The whole build-up, the whole music and score, and the characters basically starting to see things in this hotel that is meant to be empty and just them 3 in there. You start to think, wow, what the hell is going on here? Stanley Kubrick directed this movie brilliantly. There's so much great imagery on screen, from the elevator falling with all the blood to them 2 creepy ass sisters who just appear on screen and then go off again. You're like, wow, what the fuck was that, man? And what really got me when I first watched this movie is when something scary would happen and then the whole screen would just go black and it'd say, now it's Tuesday. And I was like, oh my God, get the lights back on. But ultimate performance from Jack Nicholson here is Jack Torrance. He is terrifying in this movie. He just gets everything down to a T.
Here's Johnny.
Shelley Duvall is another great character who there is a bit of backstory as what to happen with her and Stanley Kubrick. I don't know the full details, but her performance was great as well. And Room 237, every time that scene comes on, man, I'm just like, oh, here we go. Not this fucker again. So The Shining, absolutely brilliant movie. And I know Stephen King didn't like this version from Stanley Kubrick, but for me, it totally worked. So number 3 is The Shining. Number 2 is going to be from the master of suspense himself, Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. Now, I didn't watch this movie until quite late in my life. I say late, it was about 10 years ago, but I thought I'd seen all the horror classics by then. And I watched this and I was absolutely blown away by how good it was. I love the way Alfred Hitchcock directs this movie. He just points the camera in all the right places. And I know this sounds a little bit weird, but it's got like a cozy vibe to it. Like, I love getting under the covers and just watching this movie with a bunch of snacks. It just has that feel to it, like a classic horror movie should. And it's basically about this woman who goes to this motel and she meets the owner there called Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins. And he seems like a really nice fellow, but there's just something not right there that is a little bit off about him. And what ensues is a tale of terror, basically. Now, Alfred Hitchcock was apparently waiting outside cinemas begging people to not spoil the ending of this film. Now, I know this is a 1960s film, and I don't want to say what it is for you guys watching, but if you have not seen Psycho, you need to go and watch this. I know a few of my friends still have not seen this film, but for me, it's damn near perfect. It's so well paced, twists and turns around every corner, and even though I know what's coming, I still love the surprises that he throws in there. A brilliant, brilliant film, and really a great performance by Anthony Perkins and Norman Bates there as another horror icon, basically there. Absolutely love this movie. It's damn near perfect. Number 2 is Psycho. Number 1 is going to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Spoke about this movie numerous times on the channel, and I went to see it at the cinema a couple of years ago, and it was just the greatest experience. So if you're ever thinking about going to see your favourite films on the cinema and they're showing it, don't hesitate, go and do it, because it just adds so much more to that movie and your connection with it. But basically, this is about a group of teens who go on a road trip and accidentally bump into Leatherface and his wielding chainsaw, basically. Now, the way Tobe Hooper directs this film is so gritty and documented that it feels like a realistic portrayal of a tale of terror, especially with the opening there of this guy who is narrating it saying, "One idyllic summer afternoon drive became a nightmare." It just sets you up so much. It gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. But we've just got another horror icon born here in Leatherface, haven't we? Who wears people's faces as a mask and stuff. And you would not put this, past anyone doing this in the middle of Texas, would you? And that's what is so scary to me about this film. Humans are the scariest threat in any horror movie to me because they are capable of so many terrifying things. You can throw all the monsters and ghosts you want in there, but humans are actually this real threat. So for me, that is what terrifies me about this movie more than anything. The screaming from the character of Sally towards the end of this film is horrifying. And I used to think this part of the movie was just like, but the more I watch it now, the more I can feel here, the terror coming off her. It's just a really well put together film. I absolutely love it. And I will be amazed if anything knocks this off the number 1 spot for me, because the more I watch it like Halloween, the better it gets. It's an absolute masterpiece from Tobe Hooper, and one that you should definitely check out. So number 1, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Congratulations, you are still alive.
Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this top 10 horror movies. Have you seen any of these films? Have you not seen any? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to leave your top 10 list down below, and I'll try and get back to you all, I promise. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want more top 10s, they will be down below, along with my Halloween reviews, my horror revisited episode where I review all old horror films. Don't forget to check them out. Leave a like. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. It would really help me out. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.